Okay, we'll wait for Congressman Aguilar.
I'm sorry? Oh, yeah, I'm good.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Congresswoman Norma Torres, and I represent the 35th Congressional District. I want to start today's press conference by thanking my colleagues who joined me on this oversight tour today. Congresswoman Karen Bass, and former Speaker of the State Assembly, Congressman Mark Takano, Congressman Pete Aguilar, and Congresswoman Sara Jacobs. We will each share with you a few thoughts before taking questions at the very end. I also want to acknowledge the Fairplex and the Office of Refugee Resettlement staff who helped make this congressional delegation possible. Let's be clear about something. For the sake of these children and for the sake of our community here in Pomona, what happened here today is vital. We have checks and balances in this country for a reason. Each co-equal branch of government is a quality assurance check for others. And as elected representatives for our community, and as an appropriator myself, responsible for funding facilities like this one, it is my job to provide oversight and to make sure the resources go where they are needed and spent how Congress intended it to be spent. It's how we don't just say we're taking care of these children. It is where we say we are making sure we are taking care of these children. Visits like these are happening in facilities all over the country every day by members of Congress. ORR operates over 200 facilities in 22 states with some 22,500 children in their custody. These facilities are performing a crucial role right now. Border Patrol facilities at entry points are overcrowded, under-resourced, and frankly, not fit to meet the needs of vulnerable children. The kids need a caring community, and the Biden administration deserves credit for working closely with localities across the country to find willing partners like the one we are here. San Diego County said yes, which led the facility at the San Diego Convention Center that I toured with my colleague, Sara Jacobs, a few weeks ago. Los Angeles County said yes, which is what brought about the facilities in Long Beach and here at Fairplex. And the fact is, Pomona, my home city, has a long and proud history of welcoming refugees in their moment of need. Just last week, I attended a memorial with our Vietnamese neighbors who were welcome here after the fall of Saigon. And when the previous administration signed a disastrous Muslim ban executive order, our community here in Pomona joined faith groups in welcoming Syrian refugees. So this facility is a reflection of our long-standing values in Pomona. And I have every expectation that it will deliver the quality of care that these kids deserve. Over the next 6 weeks, I intend to visit every single week to make sure that nothing changes. The stakes are much too high for these kids who have already endured so much, and for our community, which embraces this facility with open arms, but still expects strong administration and clear communication. Just last Saturday, I led a group of 14 community partners to tour the facility before the children arrived. The Pomona Pomona Fairplex happens to be part of the congressional district that I represent, but this facility is actually the 5th that I have toured in the past 2 months. And what I've seen from Carrizo Springs, Texas, to San Diego Convention Center, to Fort Bliss, and CHS Trail House Shelter near El Paso, is that the Biden administration is committed to providing the best care possible. From physical and mental health support, to recreation and socializing opportunities, to on-site education, and much more. So the bar is set high for this facility. But from everything that I have seen, it is locked in step with others I visited. Specifically, I want to mention the classrooms that I visited here, run by a principal from Barfield Elementary, right here in North Pomona. There is a clinic on site to ensure that children that are sick are cared for. We visited the dormitories, and we played soccer with the girls in the open space. So we're off to a very good start, and I am very pleased at what we saw today. This congressional delegation can confirm that these efforts far meet our values as a caring and compassionate community, state, and nation. As someone who came here as a child from Guatemala myself, I am incredibly proud to see Pomona residents stepping up to help these incredible, vulnerable children receive the dignity, security, and bright future that each and every one of them deserves. And with that, it is my distinct pleasure to welcome my friend and colleague, Congresswoman Karen Bass, to the podium.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to, first of all, thank the Congresswoman Norma Torres, the first Central American ever elected to the House of Representatives. Thank her for her leadership, her consistent leadership. And also my other colleagues that are here. I would like to acknowledge the Fairplex and the Sheridan and Supervisor Hilda Solis, all for their leadership. It is just wonderful to be in California, where immigrants are welcome, where we understand the plight of the children and the families and understand the unbelievable journeys that each and every one of them took to come here. And it is just a world of difference having visited these types of facilities, well, not like this, but having visited facilities under the last administration where children were used as pawns and to punish families, and to be here and to see this facility, to go to the classrooms that Representative Torres mentioned, to spend a couple of minutes talking to the children who, across the board, were so happy to be here and clearly being cared for. It's an honor to be here today, and as Representative Torres said, I will do the same. We will continue to provide oversight. I serve on the Foreign Affairs Committee, and I also serve on Judiciary. Both of those committees deal with issues related to the people that are here. One, the source countries, the countries that they come from, and I look forward to the leadership of our Vice President Harris, who is her responsibility to deal with trying to address the root causes so people don't have to make the journeys. And then in Judiciary, where we are looking to pass legislation to help people to help the children and the other folks coming across the border to get reintegrated. What is especially important to me is the fact that when I entered here, as soon as we came in, the first words out of the staff were they want to make sure that the children are treated like their own. And that is exactly the way we should treat children and go out of our way to make sure that they are able to connect with their family members, but also that the trauma that they experienced in making this journey is something that is addressed here so that they don't have to carry the worst aspects of that trauma for the rest of their lives. So it's an honor for me to be here. I'll continue to support my colleagues that are doing the legislation so that we can, one, address this problem long-term, but short-term to make sure that all of these children make it safely to their family's home. So let me call up my colleague, Representative Mark Takano.
Thank you, Representative Karen Bass, and I want to express my gratitude to my colleague Norma Torres. I believe she's a neighbor. I represent the 41st District, which is Riverside, includes the cities of Riverside, Moreno Valley, Jurupa Valley, and the city of Paris. And I have to say that I am very, very moved by the effort of Los Angeles County and the Pomona Unified School District, tremendous community cooperation and welcoming the amazing resources of this community to be able to address the needs of these young people, these children, who've come mainly from the northern tribal countries of El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. They really do make up close to 95% of who is here now. But you know, there are likely to be children that come from other parts of the world, but that's principally who's here. I'm a former teacher. I was a teacher for 24 years in the public school system. I sit on the House Committee on Education and Labor, and I have to say that I was very impressed that we had an actual principal from the public school system and certified, certificated teachers here to meet the needs of these young people. They're specifically informed in terms of trauma-informed education, knowing that the students they're going to be interacting with have likely encountered some trauma along their journey. I was very attentive to asking the administrator from the contractor, Cherokee, about their infection control protocols, and I was impressed that they're consulting both with the CDC. There was the presence of the CDC and the county health department here, and they've actually specifically designed the facility with infection control in mind. I asked the question about whether the children are tested before they arrive, meaning from the point of departure, and he confirmed that they are. And they're tested again when they actually arrive here. And some of the young people have tested positive, and they immediately put them into a segregated area where they are attended to by medical staff. There is a medical staff that is available to the young people, and they are attended to. And I'm impressed by the attentiveness that they give to those young people that are in the sequestered area. I saw plenty of recreation opportunities for the young people. There's no sense of confinement. There is a lot of there's a lot of ability for them to move about under supervision. We entered classrooms. I saw fully attentive students, fully engaged in a lesson. In fact, I think they were kind of annoyed that these members of Congress were in. I mean, we had to look. We were doing oversight, but the point is that the teachers were really, I think, very skilled at what they were doing. So, I am very hopeful that the bottleneck that we're seeing, on the southern border in South Texas, is going to be untangled and unraveled as we find more remarkable communities, such as the one we see here in Pomona, coming together to welcome young people with humanity. I really want to congratulate the Biden administration for really turning the page on a previous very cruel and inhumane policy of separating young people from their families, of intentionally trying to dissuade and disincentivize more migration by cruel policies. We need to do that, as the Congressman Bass has said, through working with the three countries that are mainly involved in these migrations, and we have to deal with the safety issues, the economic development issues, and the assistance that we need to provide to those countries. So my heart is more full today. I want to assure the American people and all the people of our region who care about the welfare of young people that this administration is moving forward with very compassionate and caring policies. And I want to bring up my colleague, my neighbor, Pete Aguilar, from, I think, the 31st District.
Thanks so much, Congressman Takano. Classroom teacher, Mark Takano, with a lesson on education there as well. I was pleased to join my colleagues here today, and because we're here to provide oversight. As Congresswoman Torres says, that's our responsibility. She and I serve on the Appropriations Committee. I serve on a subcommittee for Government and Homeland Security. And our job is to hold any administration accountable. And so we're going to continue to ask questions. We're going to continue to visit. We're going to continue to make sure that the highest level of care is provided to the young people here. And I'm heartened that the Biden administration, that their policies of compassion and responsibility and care toward these children, that is what we felt as we walked away from our visit and our tour. This is a very difficult time and difficult conditions, and we should also be clear that our southern border is closed. We're dealing with the pandemic, and so we want to make sure that to the extent possible, individuals stay in their home countries. However, there's so much work that we can do, and I want to thank Congresswoman Torres for her leadership. She has been leading House Democrats in diplomatic efforts to talk about aid to the northern tribal countries, aid to this Western Hemisphere, and making sure that individuals don't have to make that dangerous journey. And so I appreciate her leadership. I appreciate the fact that she and I share a number of cities here in the Inland Empire, and for her continued friendship and hospitality with this tour. And with that, I'd like to introduce one of our new colleagues from Southern California, Congresswoman Sara Jacobs.
Well, thank you, Pete, and thank you, Congressman Torres, for arranging our visit today. I've appreciated the opportunity to be here in Pomona and to see the setup here at Fairplex. As I've met with our immigration agencies, with advocates, with ORR personnel, it's clear that having more HHS space like this is the key to ensuring kids don't stay in detention for a second longer than they should. So I want to thank the folks at FEMA and HHS who are leading a government-wide effort to make sure that we move these kids quickly out of Customs and Border Protection and Border Patrol facilities and into facilities like these that are meant to care for these kids. I represent San Diego, where we've had a similar setup as this since April. It's been great to see our communities working together and learning from each other. Congresswoman Torres and I visited that facility together. And I'm proud that I'm from a community that has welcomed thousands of children and been a working partner with our federal government to do the right thing. I know when I hear from my constituents, and I'm sure the experience is similar for many of us, we hear that they want a more compassionate approach to our immigration system. We know that the policies of chaos and fear of the previous administration are not only inhumane, they are ineffective. Cruelty does not deter migration. And it's up to us to make sure that we are making up for the trauma of the difficulty that our immigrant communities and asylum seekers had to face from the cruelty of the last administration. I'm grateful that President Biden and Vice President Harris are committed to getting this right and to building a system that restores order and fairness to the legal asylum processes and keeps families together. And let me emphasize, seeking asylum is legal. It's legal under international law and it's legal under U.S. law. This is a legal process. I'm looking forward to working with Vice President Harris, my colleague Norma Torres, and others to address the root causes of this migration and make sure we're being good partners in Central America. working on issues of instability, violence, corruption, and a lack of opportunity. And I'm proud that in Congress we've already prioritized legislation that puts dignity and humanity back into our immigration system. As many of my colleagues have noted, it's part of our role as members to conduct oversight and make sure these facilities are meeting the needs of the children, the safety and privacy and health protocols that we know are important. And I have been really heartened by what I've seen here today, and I know that we are going to continue making sure that what we're seeing is up to the highest level of care. Our commitment should be about meeting our humanitarian and moral obligations to these kids and making sure we get this right. Not using these kids as a political talking point or to score political points. I know there are many people who ask, why are we doing this? Why are we spending this money when we have our own kids to take care of? And I think it's important to say we use terms like UAC or migrant to obscure the fact of the matter, that these are children, plain and simple, just children. They're children like you and I once were, like your kids or mine. In another situation, they could have been one of our kids. Or my great-grandmother Bertha, who at the age of 14 escaped Russia by herself and came to the United States where she was welcomed. So I think we need to make sure that as we're talking about this, we are focusing on the responsibility we have to take care of these children and not try and score these political points. With that, I'll turn it back over to my colleague for questions.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and to all of my colleagues. If anybody has any questions, we're happy to try to answer those for you now.
Can you talk about the age range of children that you saw at this facility?
So this facility has the capacity to host children from all ages, 0 to 17 years old. The ages that we saw were, I believe, 5 years old to 17.
Congresswoman Jeff Schenkel, publisher of La Nueva Voz, Pomona's only community newspaper. Of course, you're a former mayor of Pomona. You live across the street up the hill in Venetia Hills. You may have walked here today, I'm not sure.
I walk here every day.
Do you?
When I'm home.
But as Pomona's only community newspaper, of course, we've heard from people, our readers and others in the community who are on both sides of this issue. What do you have to say to those in the community who may have concerns with this use being made of the Fairplex at this time?
I'm not sure what other use we would have for Fairplex at this time during this pandemic. The Sheraton Hotel where we are was home to homeless individuals that were COVID positive up until 2 months ago. So they are already in queue to be a disaster center, a gathering location. So this is a perfect facility for that.
Can you specifically talk about the facility? Like, are these tented areas? Are these mobile structures, like portable classrooms? Can you just give us a little more detail on that?
Absolutely. So the facility is, some of them are tents. For example, the clinic, the daily clinic that is open till 7 p.m. from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. That is a tent, and that is where children go to get vaccinated or to get medical assistance. The classrooms are portables. The dining facilities are covered outdoor facilities, and it's mainly near the area where the old racetrack used to be.
Okay.
There are currently 280 children at this facility. 60% of them are from Guatemala, 30% from Honduras, 5% from El Salvador, and 5% mix other countries.
Just to add, none of the kids are sleeping in any tented facility. All of the sleeping areas are permanent structures. They are in cots that are distanced. We made sure that they were very good quarters for these kids. It's carpeted, it's at a nice temperature. It seems like they are enjoying their time there.
These are temporary facilities. Most of the facilities that I visited are, the dormitories are tents with the exemption of one facility that there were little cottages that hosted them. Did you want to add something?
Yeah. We were informed that the temperature is kept a constant 76 degrees, and that when we observed portable classroom spaces, we observed a classroom that was no more than 25. My understanding is it's 25. The other thing is the staffing ratio is Norma, do you have statistics on the staffing ratio or something? But I was impressed with the level of staffing. We asked extensive questions about the qualifications of the staff, the background checks of the staff. All adults are put through an extensive background check. Federal volunteers are also cleared through a background check. And for a local paper, I would say they've, as this ramps up to take up to 2,500 folks, the staffing ratios are going to mean a lot of opportunities for youth workers to be paid. I would say very, I wouldn't even use the word competitive, but they're well paid here. So they come from staffing agencies. So I'd say the local community is also going to be able to offer its talent to serve these young people, and they're going to be well compensated.
The staffing ratio is 1 to 6.
Is there any update on the children being reunited with family members or sponsors at this time?
As of yesterday, 2 children were reunited. And remember, they just got here Saturday night. Their goal is to get them reunited within the first 2 weeks.
Congressman, let me dovetail on the statistics from both of you, if I may. We know what we know now, thanks to you, and thank you for providing those. How many kids are here? What is the schedule long-term for additional buses bringing additional kids? How fast are they going to be coming in to get up to the capacity level?
There is no set schedule for that. Unfortunately, it's as they come to the border, present themselves to border agents. They are processed through that system. That is why the call went out to 50 states, all municipalities across the U.S. To volunteer to host children in their communities. We have gotten away from the old way of forcing these facilities on communities while hosting kids in cages. There are no cages here.
So when you were doing the actual tour, can you just describe to us the demeanor of the children as you were coming up on them?
They're very happy, which, for me, having walked through facilities in the previous administration, not last year, but the year before that, and having been at the border recently, the kids here, because they are being treated humanely, they are being fed 3 times a day, and they're being given the attention that they need, they're very happy. We saw kids playing, smiles, their faces. They already know how to say good morning, good afternoon. Some of the other facilities, they're learning the Pledge of Allegiance. They want to be a part of our American life.
Is the American flag actually displayed inside?
It is at several locations.
Oh, okay, all right.
But what I'd also say is just to piggyback on what the Congresswoman said, we saw young people who were comfortable, they felt good, they were happy, and I would describe the intake, is an outdoor area where young people can gather, they can acclimate themselves, they can do their COVID testing outdoors. There is indoor areas where the case management is done, and indoor carpeted areas, air-conditioned areas where they sleep. There is educational facilities in the portable facilities, as was mentioned, and there are recreational opportunities. I would also just note that Congressman Takano was the only member who did not join us on the soccer field. And don't think that we aren't keeping score. Next time he will dress appropriately. I only allowed 1 goal, but she was very, very good. I want the record to show. But we were pleased with what we saw.
How many kids were playing soccer when you were on the field?
And dozens. There was multiple games going on. And like Congressman Takano said, they were probably more annoyed by our presence on the soccer field and in the classroom, because they were legitimately, number one, way more talented, and also they were enjoying themselves. They really were in the classroom. They were focused on their work, and in the recreational facilities, they were focused on playing and having fun as they should.
Well, I just got to say that Congresswoman Jacobs I was amazed at her dribbling skills. She was quite agile, and I will hold you to it, Congressman Aguilar, to get me the. I will hold you to getting the tie-dye jacket that I saw some of the students wearing. I was very jealous. The students were wearing. The students have an opportunity, or the young people have an opportunity to select articles of clothing. They're not all the same. There was no institutional sort of inmate feeling to what we saw there. What we saw were students you could see, or young people that you could see in any sort of educational setting. Apparently they had the ability to pick out Crocs as well as tennis shoes. I guess one young person was running around in Crocs, and there was, I think, some concern that those were ill-fitting shoes, but that young person just preferred to play soccer in Crocs. So we saw folks not dressed in detention center sort of garb, but I was impressed that the contractor, Cherokee, was able to select a variety of clothing articles, and the young people can select what is to wear. And they were very, as I said, Congressman Aguilar said he was going to get me one of those sweatshirts.
The children get 3 sets of clothing, as well as tennis shoes and flip-flops for the showers.
So this is an emergency intake facility, correct? So members of the public are probably going to wonder, are there actually any Border Patrol personnel at this location?
There are no Border Patrol personnel at this location.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any update to the number of?
And because of the history here in the city of Pomona, it's really important to get that right. Our mayor, former mayor, was detained by ICE, and that is something that we are very sensitive to.
Thank you.
Is there any update to the number of positive COVID cases here? Last reported it was 14 on Wednesday.
Yes, and it is not unusual to have 6 to 7% of the population test positive. That is the reason why we have put into law that there needs to be 3 different separate areas of confinement. The general population, COVID positive kids sleep, eat, and play separately from those, and children that are symptomatic are also kept apart. Now, 90+% of those symptomatic children suffer from the common cold or seasonal allergies. Yes. All of the staff are wearing masks. This was something that I inquired about last week when I toured this facility, that we must insist on every single staff member to wear an N95 mask. And that is why members of Congress were all wearing these masks. It is important because we do not want to add to the community spread.
Are the children also wearing face masks?
Children are also wearing face masks, and they are tested twice weekly.
Okay.
And with that, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. Very much appreciate you being here and taking an interest in this. I will leave you with this, that no matter how you feel about the U.S. taking care of these children, we don't punish children for the acts of the parents. That is not, in a democracy that we represent, that is not acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you.